This conference will now be recorded.
So yesterday we were discussing about what is replication controller and how it works. Today we'll try to understand about replica set. Replica set, right? And other objects like daemon set and deployment. So replica set and replication controller both does the same thing. Replica set and replication controller both does the same thing, but replica set is next generation of a replication controller. If you see, yesterday we created a replication controller. Yesterday we created a replication controller. So the replication controller is managing the pod life cycle. We can scale up, scale down the pods using replication controller. If pod goes down, the replication controller will recreate. The way we have a replication controller, similarly we have a replica set also. Replica set, this replica set is next generation of replication controller. Replication controller and replica set both does the same thing. There is no much difference. This will manage pod life cycle. Only difference only difference only difference comes in a selector support. Only difference comes in a selector support between replication controller and replica set. Replication controller supports only equality based selector. But replica set RS supports equality and set based, both set based selectors. Only difference comes in the selector support between replication controller and replica set. So if you observe replication controller, yesterday we created a replication controller. So here, right, in this replication controller YML, we can give selectors, right? Selectors. Here, what type of selector it supports? Only equality. What is the meaning of equality? Equality based selector. What is the meaning of equality? Equals. Equal. Equals condition. Suppose like you key double equals to value, we will use conditions, right? conditions. So this is what kind of condition? Like suppose you are using, maybe let's take SQL. If you are from a SQL background, we'll write something like this, right? Queries select star from employee where employee name equals to Mithun, something like this. So like we are querying some records based on this condition, right? Similarly, replication controller will manage the pods, will query the pods based on the given selectors. This is what kind of condition here? Equals condition, right? Similarly, replication controller supports only equality, key equals to value, replication controller. But when it comes to replica set, replica set supports equality as well as set based. Set based is something like this: key in value 1 or value 2, like key in, right, or not in. So replica set supports set based selector also. Set based selector also. What is set based? Like in, not in, right? In case of SQL, we will do something like this, right? Employee name in Balaji, Mithun, something like this, right? This we call it as what kind of conditions? These kind of conditions, right? Set based conditions, kind of expressions, right? So that is the only difference between replication controller and replica set. Both does the same thing. Replica set is a next generation of a replication controller. So it supports equality as well as set based replica set. When it comes to replication controller, what it supports? When it comes to replication controller, what it supports? Only equality, only equality based conditions. But not only this, the API version also will change. What is the API version for replication set? Let me show you. Excuse me. So when it comes to replication controller, it will be something like this. Same thing, I want to use it as a replica set. In that case, what will change? What will change? The kind. Kind is what? If I want to create a replica set, kind is replica set. Kind is replica set. And what is the API version for replica set? App/v1. And here under the selectors you see some small difference. Under selectors you see small difference. So in case of equality based selectors also, in replica set we will give something like this. First selectors, then you will define something like this. Even though it's a equality, you will define something like this. Match labels, key and value, key and value in replica set. But in case of replication controller, you directly define key and value. In case of replica set, in replication controller, in replication controller, you will directly define selectors, key and value, key and value. If there are multiple also, something like this. But in replica set, even though it's a equality, you will define something like this. Selectors, match labels, then key and value, key and value. But when it comes to set based, right, it will be something like this. Match expressions, match expressions. So here, key, your label key, operator, it will be like in, then values, label value. For one key, you can match with multiple values. For same key, you can match with multiple values in case of set based expressions. In case of equality, one key, one value. You can match with only one key, one value. But here, one key, multiple values. Something like this you can define expressions. Under selectors, match expressions in case of set based selector. In case of equality, selectors, match labels. So that is the difference here. Even though it's equality, in case of replica set, can I define directly something like this? No. So what we need to be defined under selectors? Match labels, key and value, something like this. So this is where you see some difference. This is where you see some difference. And the name, whatever name you want to give, right? Something like this you can create. Replication set, replica set. Can I scale the replica set again? Scale up, scale down. If the pod goes down, does the replica set will recreate the pod? All these things? Yes, it does the same thing. Only difference comes here in the selector support. Now, for same application or for a different application, let me create a replica set. Maybe for a different application or same application, whatever. API version, kind, metadata, spec, kind, replica set. What is the API version for replica set? apps/v1. Metadata, name. This name is for what? Whatever name here I am going to give, that name is for replica set. Okay. And labels. These labels, whatever I give here, this labels is for what? Is this labels for my pod or is this labels for replica set? Whatever I can give here, again, it's for a replica set. But for these labels, we will not use anywhere. We will not use these labels anywhere. It is optional. And also, we can mention a namespace, under which namespace it has to be created, this replica set. If I don't mention namespace again, whatever namespace my kubectl is pointing, my current namespace, it will be deployed in that namespace. Okay. Now again, replicas. Again, replicas. Excuse me. How many replicas you want to create? Most importantly here, selector. Now each selector is mandatory for a replica set. Can I create the replica set without selectors? Selectors are mandatory for a replica set. It will throw error if you don't give a selector. So here I am giving a kind of selector, something like this, selectors. Now here I can use either match labels or match expressions or both, something like this. You can give multiple, guys, multiple, something like this, multiple team names, whatever, multiple you can give, multiple labels also in the selectors also. Now again same thing, template. So what is this template? What we are going to define under this template? Pod template, pod information. So again we have a metadata. This metadata is what? Our pod metadata. So whatever selectors you have given here, right, that will be your pod labels. Something like this. Then again, spec. Yes, in RC selectors are not mandatory. Yesterday also we discussed. In RC selectors are not mandatory. Even though you are not giving selectors, internally it will use some hashing to identify the pods, whatever pods it is going to create or manage. So here, pod specification for your pod, containers, name of the container, something like this. Name, whatever name. It doesn't matter, right? Unless until you give same thing. But if I give something like this, will it work? My pod labels are different, selectors are different. It will throw error. It will throw error saying that it is not matching. If I try to create a replica set, something like this, it will throw error saying that the pod labels are not matching with selectors. It will throw error. If you wanna try, you can try. Okay. Unless until it is same, right? If it is whatever you define, that doesn't matter. Image, from which image? Docker hands-on slash whatever image name. Guys, if this registry is not correct, the registry name, the repository name, and the tag, with this tag there is no image, what error you see? What error you see? The status of your pod, what do you see? Someone already faced this issue. Image pull back off. Image pull back off. You see a error? Image pull back off. if the registry name, I mean to say it is not correct registry name and repository name and the tag. In that case, you see image pull back off. Suppose here I have not given :1 or :2 that version tag. Which one it will try to pull? :latest. Again, if the tag, if that image doesn't exist in your repository, again what error you see? If that image doesn't exist in your repository, again what error you see? Same error, image pull back off. Okay. So make sure you are giving correct registry name, correct repository name, and correct tag. Then ports, your container port. So I'm creating a replica set. Again, this is different application. If I want to access this application again, inside the cluster or outside the cluster, what needs to be done? I'm deploying one more application, one more microservice. Let's consider one more application I'm deploying. If I want to access this application inside the cluster or outside the cluster, again, what needs to be created for this one also? Service. Again, we need to create a service. You may have a question, sir, you already have a service, right? You already have a service, right? So this service is for what? This service is for this application. This service is for a different application. So I'm trying to create a service for now different application. Something like this. Again, API version, kind, metadata, and spec. So kind, what kind of object? Service, API version, v1. Yeah, API version, v1, kind, service, metadata, name of the service, spec. Under spec, guys, again, is this orders matter? Can I create, define template first under spec, replica second? In the YML, is the order matters or the placement, indentation matters? Can I write something like this? First, I will define a template under spec. Then can I define replica selectors? Will it throw error or it has to be in the same order? This one under spec? No. Order doesn't matter. Now, first I can define ports also, something like this. Port, your your target port. Then I can define type, but the placement matters. I mean to say indentation matter. Type, then selector, something like this. So port, the service port. So the service port can be anything. Default, I am giving 80. Target port, 8080. Type, what type of service? If I want to access outside also, then type will be node port, selectors. So what should be my selectors now? Can I give something like this? If I try to give selector as something like this, will it route the traffic to this application? I'm creating a service with this name. If I give selector something like this, app Java web app, will it route the traffic to this application, or it will route the traffic to other application? This service. It will route the traffic to other application. So labels are very, very important, labels and selectors. If you mess up with your labels and selectors, it will not work as expected. Now, is it always app here, or can I give anything? A, B, C, X, Y, Z? These are labels, anything. Whatever you have given here, that should match with your selectors. Now, I'm giving Maven web app. Now, I am creating a one more service. If I have this replication controller, how many parts will be having with these labels? If I create this replication controller, how many parts will be having with that label? 2 parts. Then if I create this service will have how many endpoints? 2 endpoints, right? So let me deploy this. So there is some selector. Where exactly it is missing? In replica set, selector is missing. I have given it as a selectors, not selectors. Selector. Okay. Here also selector service. If you see service also, I have given it as a selectors. It is selector. Now if you observe, do you see replica set got created or both failed? If you observe now, is replica set is created, where it is failed? Replica set is created, only service is failed. Let me change again here, selector, not selectors. Now service also got created. Service also got created. Now replica set, there is no change. Now these two up. Okay, image pull error. I think there is some error with my image. You see the status image pull error, that image pull backup. Now how can I see? How can I troubleshoot? Troubleshooting also very, very important, guys. What is the reason? I want to know. What is the reason? I want to know. How can I see? kubectl, describe your pod, whatever pod. What it is saying? What it is saying? Failed to pull image. This is not found. Docker hands-on maven-web-app :1. That image is not found. So let me see in my registry. Docker hands-on maven-web-app. Registry name is correct, repository name is correct. But inside that registry, if you see the tags, the versions of the images, do I have that :1 image in my registry? In this registry, Docker hands-on in the Maven web app repository, do I have that :1 image? No. So that is not there. That's why it is giving error. Failed to pull the image. So now let me update my manifest. Let me update the image version. Something like this. If the images are in private repository, how to authenticate, right? I will explain later. So you need to authenticate, you need to create a secret. I will explain that later once you understand the secret concept. In in Kubernetes, there is a concept called secret. So you need to create a secret. If it is a private repository, create a secret for your registry. You need to create a secret for your registry. That secret you need to mention in the image as an image pull secret. Image pull secret in your manifest, file, right? You can use one more option, image pull secret. So first you need to create a secret in the Kubernetes with your username and password. That username and password, that secret, you have to refer it as a image pull secret. So that I will explain later. Okay, how to create a secret, what is secret, first of all, we'll understand later. For now, I am using public images, public repositories. In case of public images, public repositories, do I need to authenticate? No. Okay. So let me do this. kubectl apply -f maven web app. But if you see, I am updating a replica set. But is your parts will be recreated? If I update my replica set, if I update my replication controller, I'm trying to update. Already replica set is there. I'm trying to update my replica set. Is replica set is getting, I mean to say, is your parts are getting recreated? So that's why yesterday I told in Kubernetes, what is the recommended way to deploy the applications? We have some controllers, replication controller, replica set, deployment. So this is recommended. Why it is recommended? Now you can understand. Now I try to update. It is common to update your deployments. I mean to say your images, right? Whenever there is a change in your code, do you need to recreate your, you need to redeploy your images? You will generate a new image. You need to generate a new image and you will push that image to the repository and you will update that image in your Kubernetes objects. But if I am using replica set or replication controller, if I am updating the image, is my parts are recreated with that image? In that case, what needs to be done? If I am using replica set or replication controller, do I need to delete and recreate that controllers to update? Yes, you need to delete and recreate. So kubectl delete rs. Rs stands for replica set. That replica set name I deleted. Now again I am creating. Again I am creating. Now if you see, this time, is the images are correct? Is it pulling the containers and creating? Now with that image, it is creating the pods. Now my pods are up and running. Using this service, Can I access outside using the node IP and node port? This port, node port, and that node IP. That node IP can be anything. That node can be anything. That node can be master node or worker node. But make sure you open the security group, the firewall. Make sure you open the firewall for that security, that port security group. For this port, I am opening the traffic. Now using this server, I can access outside also. So whatever base image I am using, for that application, that has a Tomcat root application. So I am getting a Tomcat home page. Within this Tomcat, what is my application context? That application context is something like this. Maven hyphen, I think web hyphen app. Maven hyphen web hyphen app. This is my application context. Okay. Or Maven hyphen web hyphen, I think application. Yeah, this is my context, not Maven hyphen web hyphen app / application. Basically, this application context is nothing but the whatever context you have set for your application. It is not your pod name. It is not your deployment name. It is not your replica set name. This is your context, application context. Now, if you see, am I getting a response from that application? Now, if you observe, I have customized, I have customized this application. It is printing the IP address. Now you see, it is printing the host name and IP address. I have written some code. That is printing the server IP address and host name. I have customized that code. If you see, I have customized, I have some code. It is printing the IP address and host name. Now, if you see, what is this IP and what is this host name? Is it your Kubernetes IP or pod IP? Because this application is running as what? This application is running as a container in the pod. So each and every pod will have what? IP address, right? So I am getting response from one of the pod. From which pod I am getting a response now? If you see the host name and IP address of pod, the pod name is nothing but your host name. From this one I am getting a response. This is the one, right? So if I try to invoke multiple times, round robin, sometimes I may get from a different pod, sometimes I may get a response from a different pod, round robin, right? You try to access, you may get a response from a different pod, right? Round robin. So this service is acting as a load balancer. This service is acting as a load balancer. We have a service, right? As an internal load balancer. Now within the cluster, how can I access? Suppose within the cluster, this application want to talk to this application. The developer has written a code, APIs. If you are from a development background, you can understand what is API. What is APIs? In a microservice architecture, developers will write the code, APIs. In a different microservice, they will write a APIs. If one microservice has to talk to another microservice, APIs, right? We have a REST API, you have a SOAP API, but nowadays no one is using. Nowadays no one is writing the SOAP APIs. Everyone is using REST API. So the developer has written the APIs. In microservice architecture, one microservice will communicate with other microservice using APIs. So in that case, can developer hard code the IP address of your pods for one application? Now this application has to communicate with this application. Can the developer hard code the IPs in the code? Developer also has to follow some standards. If the developer hard code the IPs in the code, if the pod is deleted and recreated, will the code work if the IPs are changing? And again, same application we want to deploy in a higher environment, QA or production, same image, same application, same image we want to deploy in a higher environments like QA or production. If the developer hard codes something which is going to be changed for environment to environment, will it work again? Do you guarantee that you will get a same IP in higher environments if you deploy the pods? So that's why within the Kubernetes cluster, if one application want to talk to other application, what we have to use? We have to use service names, not node IP and node port. Within the cluster, I am saying, within the cluster. If one application want to talk to other application, we can use service name. Now let's consider this is one application. There is a code, developer has written a code. From this application, he is making a API calls to this application. In that case, the service name. So do we have a service, do we have a control on the names? Can I give whatever name I want to give for a service? Yes. Now let me show that. Let me go inside this pod. Let me go inside one of the pod. Guys, how to go inside the pod? In the container, in the Docker, how did we go inside the pod? Inside the container in Docker. What command you used? Docker exec. Similarly here, similarly in Kubernetes, kubectl exec, -it, your pod name. Let me go inside one of the pod, bash. Guys, you can use -, whatever command you want to execute. Something like this, -, the command which you want to execute. Even though you don't give this, that is also fine. But if you say what they are saying, they are giving some message, right? kubectl exec pod and command is deprecated. In future version, you execute something like this, kubectl exec pod -, and whatever command you want to execute. So that's what they're saying. In the future version, you have to use -, whatever command you want to execute. Here, -, the command which you want to execute. Now I am inside the pod container. Now can I access this application using service now? I am in this application pod. Will I able to access these applications using this service name? Just service name, and the service port. If my service is created on a different port, this service with this service, different port, then I need to give that port also. But my service is created on what port? Default port 80. So not required. Then your application context. Since both are in a same namespace, both applications are running in the same namespace. Can I, do I need to give a FQDN? Since both are running in the same namespace. In that case, FQDN is not required. You can just use the service name. If you want to give FQDN also, you can give. What is the FQDN format? Service name, then dot what? Service name dot next what? Namespace name. Then namespace name dot, then svc dot, then svc dot cluster dot local. It is not just dot local, cluster dot local. This is FQDN. Then your application, that API context, whatever application context or API. Basically, this is not an API. I can say this is not an API. Whatever application I deployed, we don't have any REST APIs. It's a web application. But if you have any REST APIs, that API context. So now, do you see, am I getting the response? I'm using service name. I'm using service name. Do you see I'm getting a response from that application? Which pod is, now the service is routing the traffic to which pod? I am not using pod IPs. I am not using pod names. I am using service. Do you see service is routing the traffic to the pod? Now, from which pod I am getting the response? If you see the IP, I have written some code here. Do you see? Am I getting a response from this pod? And let me execute one more time. This time, do you see I am getting a response from other pod? This one. Now, is it load balancing is happening inside the cluster? Again, one more time, this one. Do you see is load balancing is happening inside the cluster? That service is acting as a load balancer internally. That Kubernetes service is acting as a load balancer. Yes or no? Yes. So that is how it works internally. Okay. Let me come out of this one. Now service concept we are already clear. So we created a replica set. Now these two parts are managed by which one? These two parts are managed by which one? These two parts are managed by this replication, this replica set. And the other application is managed by which one? The other application is managed by which one? The other application is managed by this replication controller, right? So we have a controllers to manage the pods. Can I create n number of replication controllers, n number of replica sets? Suppose I have 10 microservices, 10 applications to be deployed, 10 images to be deployed. Can I create 10 replica sets? Can I create n number of replica sets, n number of replication controllers? Yes. Based on the resources available. Based on the resources available, you can create whatever applications you want to deploy, you can deploy. Now, can I scale up, scale down replica set? How to scale? Now, can I modify the YML and apply? Now I can modify the YML and apply like this. kubectl apply -f. So I have modified YML. and apply. Right? If you see, now do I have a 3 pods instead of 2 pods? Using commands also directly, can I scale up, scale down? Using commands also, will I able to scale up, scale down? kubectl scale. Now what needs to be scaled? I need to scale this replica set. So scale rs, not rc. Now this is rs. Now I want to scale this one. Is this a replication set or replica, replication controller? This is a replica set. So kubectl scale rs, your replica set name, then hyphen replicas. Now I am giving it as a 2. Now as of now, desired 3, current 3, ready 3. When I execute this command, desired will become 2. If the desired become 2, will it match with this? Will it match the current and ready also with the desired state reconciliation? Now if the desired becomes 2, will it match with again the desired? If the desired is 2, right, it will match with this current also, ready also will match with your desired. Now when I am saying desired 2, I am saying this one desired will become 2. So it will only manage 2 pods. Suppose if I say 4, now desired will be 4. Now as of now we have only 3. In that case, will it match with the desired number, the current pods? Will it match with the desired numbers if I say 4 again? Yes. Desired state reconciliation. Now, do you see one pod is getting terminated now? Since I said replicas 2, currently there are 3. Now is it terminating one pod? Now can I see only 2 pods now? We can scale up, scale down using commands also. Now pods are getting created, right, based on the resources available in the cluster. The way we control the placements in the Docker, right, using constraints and labels, can I achieve same kind of things in the Kubernetes also? I want to schedule my pods in the specific nodes or group of nodes. Someone was asking that question. I think Vishnu. Any control, we have same pods created in a different nodes. So are you talking about the placement of pods, Vishnu? You want to schedule the pods in a specific node or group of nodes? Are you talking about that? Yes, there are options, right? As I told yesterday in the yesterday session also, I think I told same thing. We have some options, some topics: node selector, node affinity, pod affinity, taints and tolerations. There are some concepts which we will cover later. This we will cover in the advanced section. So using these concepts, we can control the pod placements, where pod has to be created. This we call it as a scheduling our pods, right? So we will cover this in a separate class. First, let's understand what is pod, what is deployment, then this makes sense. Okay? There is an option. Now, replica set is created. The way we have a replica set, there is a one more Kubernetes object called daemon set. What is daemon set? how different it is from a replica set or replication controller. Suppose my requirement is each and every node in the Kubernetes. Each and every node in the Kubernetes, I should have a pod. Each and every node in my Kubernetes, I should have a pod. In that case, I can create a daemon set. Guys, in the Docker swarm, if you remember, how many types of services were there? Two. What are those? Service modes. What are those? Replica mode and global mode, right? So if I create a Docker service in a replica mode, what was happening? If I am creating a service in a global mode in the Docker, what was happening? Does container is created in each and every active node in the Docker cluster? Yes. In each and every active node, we have a container for the global service. In each and every active node, there was a container for a global service. Will I able to scale up, scale down global services in Docker Swarm? No. Similarly, in Kubernetes, I want to have a pod. Similarly, in Kubernetes, I want to have a pod in each and every node. In that case, what kind of a Kubernetes object needs to be created? If your use case is that pod should be created in each and every node, what kind of object you need to create? In that case, in the Kubernetes. In the Kubernetes, you need to create a daemon set. So we have a daemon set in the Kubernetes. We have a daemon set in the Kubernetes. The way we have a replica set, there is a daemon set. So replica set, as I already discussed, it's a next generation of replication controller. Only difference comes in the selector support, which we already discussed. Now, when it comes to daemon set will make sure that all or some of the Kubernetes will run a copy of your pod. Again, if when any new node is added to the cluster, will the pod will be created automatically for a daemon set? Whatever daemon sets you have, if any node is added to the cluster, will the pod will be created in that newly added node again? Yes. So when any new node is added to the cluster, a pod is added to that node. And again, if any node is removed, that pod also will get removed. It will not reschedule to any other node because it's a daemon set. So will I able to scale up, scale down daemon set? I mean to say pods of a daemon set. Can I scale up, scale down daemon set? Can we scale up, scale down, scale down daemon set the way we were scaling replica set replication controller? No. So basically, for what kind of applications or what kind of use cases we will deploy as a daemon set? What type of applications we will deploy as a daemon set? Kind of a agent software, any kind of a agent, kind of a monitoring agent or log agent, any agent, kind of a agent software, monitoring agents, log agents. So those kind of applications in the daemon set. We can't define replicas, right? We can't define replicas in a daemon set. That's the whole purpose. of daemon set. If you want to define replicas, right, in that case you have to go with either deployment or basically a replica set. So daemon set will make sure each and every node will have a pod. If any node is added to the cluster, a pod will be added to that node also. So daemon set will be used to deploy any kind of a agent softwares like monitoring agents, log agents, some kind of a agent softwares. Okay. Now, how to create a daemon set? Again, how to create a daemon set? It's same as a replica set. Only thing what does, what will change? It's same as replica set. What will change? It will be exactly same as replica set, but what will change? The kind. The kind will change. Instead of replica set, daemon set. And also, can we define the replicas for a daemon set? No. Something like this. Exactly same as replica set. The kind will change. We can't define the replicas. Maybe let me deploy some application for now. But in real time, this daemon set will be used to deploy what kind of applications, as I told already? Log agents, agent softwares, not for your applications. You will not deploy your application, either web application or REST application. You will not deploy your applications as a daemon set, because if there is a load, do you need to scale up, scale down your applications based on the load? Your applications. Do you need to scale up, scale down your applications if there is a load? In that case, if I deploy my application as a daemon set, will I able to scale up, scale down based on the load, the number of pods? No. So our applications will be deployed as a deployment or replica set. Agent softwares. Suppose I want to monitor my Kubernetes servers using some monitoring software. If that monitoring software requires agent to be installed in each and every node, can I run that agent software as a container, as a pod using daemon set in each and every node? If you want to send log files, logs of all of your servers, your application logs or your server logs to some central server like a Splunk, ELK. I think yesterday someone was asking one question. Is Prakash there in the class? Okay. The problem with the students is, let me tell this guy. Okay. Where is this guy? This guy is attending interviews. He is from your batch only, I think. Yeah, he is from May batch only. After Jenkins, he is already started attending the interviews. After Jenkins only, he put his resume. And in the interviews, they are asking Docker's questions, Kubernetes questions, right? But he is not attending the classes. He already attended, he started attending the interviews. In the interviews, they are asking Docker questions, Kubernetes questions. Yesterday, he was asking, sir, what is ELK? But he is not at all attending the classes. I am observing actually who is attending, who is not attending. You see, how many people are there in this batch? 143 people. Except me and Bhaskar sir, 141. The score, right? 39 out of 141. Only 39 people. Now, except me, 38 people. Not only from this batch, right? Sometimes what happens, we will allow other batch students. I mean to say just a previous batch. We are not allowing like after 1 year, 6 months. So for the previous batch, right? Previous batch 6 a.m. students, they are requesting, sir, I want to attend one more time. So there we are giving a meeting IDs. Only we are sharing meeting IDs for the old batch student, the previous batch, only just previous to your batch. So they are requesting. Almost 10 guys requested. I see only 1 or 2 guys are joining. Even though I am sharing the meeting links, they are not joining. For the second time also they are requesting. So we are just sharing the meeting IDs. Just a previous batch, guys. It is not like after 6 months you come and ask me, I will never allow. You can allow for the, we will allow the second time and only meeting links. We will not provide any recordings again for the second time. And again, immediately you need to ask the next batch. It is not like, sir, I am your student 1 year back, 2 years back. No, this is not the way it is going to work. You can attend one more time, but immediately the next batch. And again, we will not share the recordings for the second time. Only meeting links will be shared. You have to attend. So a lot of people requested, and I am sharing the links, but I see only 1 or 2 guys are joining. People want job, but they don't want to put an effort. That is wrong attitude. You want to become an expert, you want to survive in IT, you want to get a job, you need to make some effort. Guys, you attend the interviews, you will come to know. Will you be able to get the offer without Docker and Kubernetes nowadays as a DevOps engineer? As a DevOps engineer, will you be able to grab an offer without Docker and Kubernetes? 90% of the projects, 90% of the projects are expecting Docker and Kubernetes. But people are not utilizing this, this session. And again, am I covering only high level, guys? If you observe my sessions, whatever sessions I am explaining, am I just covering at high level? Or I mean to say, just am I giving just what is what? Or I am explaining in detail, step by step what? From very basic I am trying to cover to very advanced level. People are not utilizing. That is the problem. Okay, I try to control myself, not say this again and again, but situations are making me to again say same thing, because they have to, because they my whole concern is it should be benefited for you also, it should be benefited for us also, right? So since you joined one course, I am expecting you to utilize that course so that it will be good for you and good for us also. Okay, yeah, what I can do, right? Yeah, just leave them, but try to utilize whoever is attending. Okay, now same kind of questions in the interview comes. If they are not at all making an effort to attend, will they able to answer all these questions? Only you will get in the interview whatever I am explaining here. So suppose now I want to monitor my Kubernetes cluster, my servers. In that case, do I need to have some monitoring software configured in my cluster like Prometheus? We will cover that also in the future class, Prometheus. So I want to monitor. So in each and every server, I need to monitor the server. Do I need to have a agents, Prometheus agents in each and every server so that it will send the data to the Prometheus? Do I need agent for each and every agents in each and every server? In that case, if I am running Kubernetes cluster, can I have that agent software in each and every node by creating that agent software as a daemon set? out of that agent image. In that case, any node added to the cluster, will that node will have that agent software automatically running as a pod. So agent softwares like a Prometheus, monitoring agents, or ELK. What is ELK stands for? Elasticsearch, Kibana, Logstash. Or nowadays EFK. EFK. Nowadays people are using beats. Elasticsearch, FileBeat. There are beat softwares, Kibana. So anyone heard about ELK? For what purpose we will use ELK? Anyone from development team? It is not ETL, right? ETL is different. ETL softwares are different. These are for a log aggregation. Log aggregation and log monitoring. Right? Log aggregation and log monitoring. This is normal application monitoring or server monitoring. So what is log aggregation, right? Nowadays, we are developing applications as a microservice architecture. Nowadays, everyone is developing applications as a microservice architecture. One microservice is communicating with other microservice. Those microservices are deployed in a different nodes in the cluster. If any issue happens in the application, if the developer want to troubleshoot the application, the logs he want to check. In that case, is it possible to trace the request by executing this kubectl commands like a kubectl logs pod name? You have hundreds of pods, you have hundreds of servers, right? In that case, is it very simple to troubleshoot your application using this kubectl logs? Because one application is talking to other application, again it is talking to a different application in the microservice architecture. So there are some softwares like a log aggregation, ELK, or have you heard about Splunk? Splunk. So Splunk also kind of a log aggregation, but it is Splunk is enterprise, ELK is open source. So we will have some softwares. Using that softwares, we can aggregate, we can send the logs from all the servers to one central place, and we can query those logs. In that case, do we need to have a agent softwares running in each and every server to send the logs to some central server? So in that case, I need to have a agent software in my Kubernetes. Can I deploy that agent software as a daemon set? Either log agent or monitoring agent, right? So we will deploy that as a agent software. Guys, I am going to cover Prometheus. But ELK, I already made it as a video. Already we uploaded video in our YouTube channel. I strongly recommend you to go through that video. That ELK, this one. I am using FileBeat instead of Logstash. I am using FileBeat, Elasticsearch, FileBeat, Kibana instead of Logstash. So you go through this video. We are deploying this application. We are configuring ELK in the cluster so that it will be easy for developers to troubleshoot the application by searching the logs in the ELK. I strongly recommend you to go through this video so that you can understand what is log aggregation. Okay. So Splunk, I don't have guys any video. Splunk is enterprise, right? But the same concept. Splunk also will have a agents. Splunk also will have a agents. That agent needs to be deployed as a daemon set, and you will have a Splunk software that you can run it as a deployment. Splunk software you can deploy as a deployment. The agent, Splunk agent, you need to deploy as a daemon set in each and every server. So the agent will send the logs to the central server where you can query your logs. I don't have a video for Splunk because it's a enterprise, but I have a video for ELK. You can go through this video. So people will use Splunk or ELK in the projects for log aggregation. In my current project, we are using ELK. In my current project, we are using ELK for a log aggregation and log monitoring. So you can understand the daemon set. So we are deploying that agent software. Here the file bit is an agent. Here file bit is an agent software. This agent software we are deploying as a daemon set. That file bit will send all the logs to the Elasticsearch. That is the central server. That file bit agent will send the logs to the Elasticsearch. That is the central server, central application. So this file bit will be running in each and every server. So that file bit will send the logs to the Elasticsearch. It will process, it will aggregate those logs. Using Kibana, we can search the logs. Kibana is a UI to search those logs. So you go through this video, you can understand how we can use the daemon set in the real time. In Prometheus also, I will explain Prometheus in the later classes. In Prometheus also, we need to have a agent softwares, monitoring agent. In that case, that agent softwares, as a which object I can create? Again, that agent software I have to create as a daemon set. In case of Docker cluster, in case of Kubernetes cluster, you are not using Kubernetes. You are not using Kubernetes. You are running as a Docker swarm. In that case, that agent software needs to be deployed as which service? If you are not using Kubernetes, if you are using Docker swarm, global service. Okay. But for now, I am using some normal application, normal image. Yes, VNet kubeproxy also running as a daemon set, because kubeproxy is what? Kubeproxy is a proxy, network proxy. In each and every server that should be running. So that's why VNet and kubeproxy also deployed as which Kubernetes object in the control plane. Again, that is running as a daemon set. For now, I am deploying normal application, Nginx image, just to demonstrate. Now, if I create something like this, I am creating a daemon set. Something like this. Now, it will not allow replicas. It will not allow replicas. Static pod, you don't have a controller. Who is going to manage static pod? The kubelet. So if I want to create a static pod, I need to place the YML in that manifest file. But if I create a static pod, will it create in each and every node? So I need to place that YML. I need to place that YML in each and every server, that etc Kubernetes manifest file. But here, this is a controller. Daemon set is a controller. So whenever you add any new node, automatically the pod will be created. You no need to do anything for a daemon set. Now how many nodes I have? Total 3, including master. Including master, I have 3 nodes. Now let me apply this daemon set. Again, something is missing. Selector, somewhere I missed. Nginx, the labels are not matching. The labels selector, match labels, app Nginx, metadata, app Nginx. Okay. You see, it is not matching. Now I created a daemon set. Now do I have a daemon set also? Here, do you see daemon set got created? The daemon set got created. But if you see how many parts has created for the daemon set? Only 2. Why not 3? The master also is there. That master is also kind of a node, master node. But why the parts are not getting created in the master? Because there is a concept called taints and tolerations. There is a concept called taints and tolerations. So master node has a taint. Master node has a taint. Unless until your parts tolerate the taint, the part will not be scheduled in that node. Anyhow, I will cover that later. What is taint, what is toleration? So master node has a taint. Master node has a taint. You describe your node, master node. kubectl describe node, this master node. So master node has a taint. You see taints. So master node has a taint. Unless until your pod tolerates this one, unless until your pod tolerates this one, parts will not be scheduled in that node. But as of now, is our nodes, our worker nodes, is that nodes has any taints? Is there are any taints for the nodes, worker nodes? No. So we will discuss what is taint, what is tolerations. So since master node has a taint, our pod is not tolerating the taint. Our pod is not tolerating the taint. That's why it is not scheduled in the master. But image pull back off because the image name is not correct. There is a typo. There is a typo. There is a typo, guys. Nginx spelling is not this one. Let me correct here also. But this will not give any error. These labels will not give any error because it is just a key value pair. But let me correct the typo. Now let me delete the daemon set and let me recreate. Let me delete the daemon set and let me create. Now if you see, we created a daemon set. In the short form, DS, I want to see only daemon sets. I can execute this kubectl get DS. in the short form. Now daemon set. As of now, one is ready, one is available, other one is still getting created. Okay. Now you see, desired to, current to, ready to, everything is ready. Now, if anything goes wrong with this pod, who will recreate that pod? Who will reschedule or recreate that pod? These two. These two are managed by which one? These two are managed by daemon set. Now, I have not given replicas. Why it has created two pods? Even though I have not created, I have not given replicas, because as of now, I have two nodes. Total, I have three nodes. But why in this node the pod is not created? Because of the taints and tolerations concept. I will explain later. So this is how daemon set works. Will I able to scale up, scale down daemon set? Can I execute this command, kubectl scale command? Kubectl scale command on ds. It won't work, right? You will get some error. The server could not find requested resource. Even though we have this daemon set, when I try to scale, it will not work. Okay. Is everyone clear, guys? What is pod? What is replication controller? What is replica set? And what is daemon set? And again, even though we have a replication controller or replica set, what is recommended way to deploy our application? Recommended way to deploy our application? Our own applications using deployment. So this we will continue in tomorrow class. Tomorrow also we will continue. Okay. Tomorrow we will discuss about deployment. Okay. What is deployment? How it works? As of now, what type of scaling I am doing? I was able to scale up, scale down the pods. What type of scaling I am doing? Manual. When I was discussing Kubernetes advantages, I told auto scaling. Automatically also I can scale my pods. That we will understand in the future classes. There is a concept called pod autoscaler. There is a concept called pod autoscaler. There is a HPA. There is a one more object we need to create, horizontal pod autoscaler. Guys, we will discuss all the topics. That's why we need so much time. You no need to worry. We are going to cover each and every point in the Dockers and Kubernetes, basically, whatever we are going to use in the real time. Horizontal pod autoscaler. We will discuss in the future classes. Okay. So tomorrow we'll continue. On the deployment. What is deployment? How it works? Tomorrow we'll continue, guys. Okay. Vishnu is asking, sir, in one pod we have different microservice apps. Is it possible to apply different services on that microservice? I mean to say, in one pod you are having a two containers. Is that what you are saying, Vishnu? Basically, it is not recommended to have two microservices in the same pod, because I will tell you the reason. You are updating the code for one microservice. When you redeploy that application, is the other microservice also will be recreated? I mean to say, because it is going to delete the pod and recreated the pod, right? So you are updating microservice A code, and you are running microservice A and microservice B as a two containers in the same pod. You are trying to redeploy that microservice A image since it is changed. Is it going to delete and recreate the pods? In that case, even though there is no change in the microservice B, Will it be deleted and recreated? So that is not recommended, but for your question, you can create a service. For your question, what you can do, same service, you can define 2 ports, something like this. You can create a one more, same service, but service port cannot be same. Service port cannot be same. You can create a service with a different port, and obviously the container port. Can we have a two containers with same port in the same pod? No. In that case, your container port will be something else. You can create a same service. In single service, you can map multiple ports. In that case, can I use this service name and this service port to access other container for your question? Can I use this service name and this port so that it will route the traffic to other container, this container in this pod if I have a multiple containers? Otherwise, what you can do? You create a one more service. You create a one more service, different service, and map with that port. Hope you are clear, Vishnu. For your question, I am saying, but it is not recommended to have a two microservices, two applications in a same pod. Any other questions, guys? Before I wrap up the session for today. What is the recommended way? You deploy your microservice, one pod, one container. But for your microservice, you need some kind of a helper. Helper is different, microservice is different. Suppose for your application, you want to enhance that application. That is not your primary application, but you want to do some kind of a helper for that primary application. In that case, you will have a multi-container. I mean to say that sidecar container, but that sidecar doesn't mean another microservice. That sidecar is just helping your microservice. Kind of a log shippers, kind of a network proxies for securing your containers. Those kind of things, you will run it as a sidecar containers. Any other questions, guys, before I stop the session for today? Okay, if you don't have any questions, I'm stopping the session. Try to practice whatever discussed today. Tomorrow we'll continue with the deployment, guys. Thank you. Tomorrow also at the same time, we'll continue.